Very good morning, dear students. So today we will proceed further with the fundamental operation of integers. In our previous class, we have discussed the addition and subtraction of integers, and today we will be going to the next fundamental operation, which is your multiplication of integers. Now before we proceed further with multiplication, I want all of you to know that there are certain rules that you need to follow while doing or while multiplying the integers. Now these rules, you can consider them to be the golden rules that you have to follow. You cannot avoid them. Alright, so here comes the first rule. The first rule says the product of a negative integer and a positive integer is always negative. So, and if we express it mathematically, it will come out to be in this form. Here, minus a has been taken as the negative integer multiplied to b, or if we take b to be the negative integer, ultimately the product of both of this integer is going to be negative. Now, if we want to modify this rule in terms of statement, how can we say that multiplying any two integers, okay, or multiplying a positive integer and a negative integer always resembles that of multiplying two whole numbers. But the only difference is the product of this integer have to be negative, right? So I hope this part is clear to you. We will understand this with the help of an example as well. Let's say we have a equal minus 4 and b equal 7. Then a into b is going to give you minus 28, right? Now, here you don't have to, unlike the addition of integers, you don't have to follow any rule as finding out or looking for the greatest number or integer among any two. Now, if you see here properly, 7 is a greater number or integer compared to minus 4. But still, the product is a negative integer. So, I hope it is quite clear to you that you don't have to follow any such rule of, going after the greater number and looking at its sign. You just have to abide by the rule number 1. Then, coming up to rule number 2. Rule number 2 says the product of two negative number is always positive. Now this is the second rule that you have to remember always. We will understand this with the help of an example. But first we will express it mathematically. So how does it goes? So now we have a and b to be two negative integers, whereas the product results into a positive integer. Alright. As an example, we have minus 6 and minus 5, and the resultant product is your 30, okay, which is a positive integer. So remember this thing, that whenever we are multiplying two integers, those two minus signs, minus and minus, will become positive, and therefore the answer will be a positive integer. But the operation that you are performing is multiplication. Always remember that. Up to the next rule. Before proceeding with the next rule, I want all of you to understand or look into the product of 3 or more than 3 negative integers in a broader way. And how we are going to do that? Simple, by taking examples. So here we have 3 integers, minus 7, minus 2 and minus 8. And when we multiply them together, the result we are going to get is your minus 112. Now, how did we proceed here? First, we took minus 7 and minus 2, alright, and we followed the second rule. Alright, and the result came up to 14. Then we multiply 14 and minus 8, where we followed the first rule, and the answer came up to your minus 112, which is a negative integer. Now let's take another example. Now here we are taking 4 integers, minus 6, minus 4, minus 5 and minus 2. So when we proceed here, we are getting the result to be 240. That is a positive integer. Again, we are following the second rule of math, multiplying integers, that is the product of two negative integer is always positive. So we got 24 and 10, and multiplying these two we got 240. So here comes the rule number 3. It says that if the number of negative integers while multiplying is even, let's say if we have 2, 4 or 6 number of negative integers and so on, then the product is always a positive integer. Whereas if the number of negative integers that we are going to multiply is odd, that is 3, 5, 7 and so on, then the product is always going to be a negative integer. I hope this part is clear to you. Then next we are going to the properties of multiplication of integers. So these properties also have similar type of names like that of your addition and subtraction. And the first property we have is your closure property. Now closure property says that for any integers a and b, a into b is also an integer. That's quite simple, right? We have an example here. We have minus 4 and 6, and their product, which is minus 24, is also an integer. Now I'll remind this again to you that I am following the first rule over here, right? You can also try taking some other examples as well. If you take two negative integers, the product will come up to a positive integer, which is also a positive number, which is also an integer. So the closure property truly follows, right? Then next we have the commutative property. Now it is almost similar to what we learned in addition, that for any two integers a and b, a into b is always equal to b into a. Again, let's take an example. We have a to be minus 7 and b equal 8, and a into b gives us minus 56, and b into a also give us minus 56. Therefore, a into b is equal to b into a. Very easy, right? Then going up to the next property that we have, that is multiplication by 0. Now I know very well that all of you have practiced a lot multiplying any number to 0, and we all know that whenever we multiply any number to 0, the result is always a 0. Similar thing happens with integer as well. For any integer a, the product will always be, or the answer will always be a 0. So I don't think you need an example for this, because it's like a universal truth, right? Then next we have is the multiplicative identity. Now this is something that you have to recall from your previous class. In your previous class you learnt about additive identity, right? And here we have the multiplicative identity. Now what is multiplicative identity? It is a number, or say a digit, which when multiplied to any integer, the product is always the integer itself. So can you guess what that digit or number can be? Very simple. That number will be your 1. 1 is going to be the multiplicative identity for any integer, right? So next property we have is your property for associativity, right? Now associativity property says that for any three integers a, b and c, a into b within bracket into c equal a into b into c within bracket. Alright. So let's understand this with the help of an example. We have a equals 6, b equal 4 and c equal minus 2. Now when we multiply this, the result is going to be your minus 24. And if we look into the other side, that is the right hand side, this side of the expression, then again 6 into, we have got a double bracket here. Reason being, two signs cannot be together without any cover, like I have already mentioned in your previous class. So the answer will come up to be your minus 24. And as we can see, both left hand side and the right hand side of the expression is absolutely equal, right? Now, if you remember earlier, I have said that whenever you see a bracket, always proceed or solve whatever it's present within the bracket. Then you go further with whatever number is left out. And here what happens, the grouping of the digits doesn't have any impact on this property. Hence the name property of associativity. It says that if any out of any three integers, if any of the two integers do the grouping, be the third number first number or say the second number first number, the result remains the same. Alright, I hope I'm making myself clear. Then the last property that we have is the distributive property. Now distributive property has two parts. The first part comes up like this: for any integers a, b and c, a into bracket b plus c will give you a into b plus a into c. So let's understand this better with the help of an example. We have a equal 4, b equal 5 and c equal 3. Now when we multiply, as I have said earlier, solve whatever is present in the bracket. So when we solve it, we got 8 out here and the result comes up to be your 32, right? Now if we check for the right hand side, that is a into b plus a into c, again it's going to give us 32 as well. So we can say that a into bracket b plus c is always equal to a into b plus a into c. Now the next part of this property, for any integers a, b and c, a into b minus c within bracket will give you a into b minus a into c, or we can say a into b minus c equal a into b minus a into c. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Now I'm taking the same examples that I have taken here. A equal 4, b equal 5 and c equal 3, right? So when we solve this, the answer we are going to get is your 8. Again, I have solved the numbers or integers present within the bracket first, and then I have multiplied that with 4. Alright. Now next part, yes, a into b minus a into c also gives you 8. So we can say that a into b minus c equal a into b minus a into c. It has been verified. Now I hope this part is also clear to you. So in today's class, we discussed the 3 golden rules, we should say, of multiplying any integer. You can try with any type of integers you want. You can try with negative integers, positive integers, anything, and the result is always going to be the same, the one we have discussed. Then coming up to properties, we discussed the closure property, we discussed the commutative property, then we also discussed the property of associativity, which says that grouping doesn't have any impact on this property, that is grouping of integers doesn't have any impact on this property, the result remains the same, right? Then we have the distributive property, which had two parts, and then multiplicative identity, and last but not the least, we have multiplication by 0, which was, I believe, to be the most easiest one. So we wind up our today's class up to here. Now I want all of you to go through these properties again and again, because you have completed the properties of addition and subtraction in your previous class. Today you have completed all the properties related to multiplication. They have similar names and even the properties are quite similar, so there is a high chance that you might get confused. So in order to avoid confusion, go through this video as many times as you want until and unless they become crystal clear to you. And one more thing, all the examples that I have shown for all these properties, I would like to say that even you can try with other numbers as well, taking other integers, and you can verify them on your own. So I hope everything is clear to you from today's video. Now for today I am not giving you any of the tasks, since I still have to check few of your worksheet from the earlier day. So take rest for a while and keep on repeating with these properties. And if you have any doubt, any confusion, please feel free to ask. Thank you.